Hi, I'm Jim. I've had a lot of requests on, hey Jim, how do you make that leather finder bag? So I thought I'd shoot a video showing you how I do it. This is a beautiful leather finder bag. It's got a solid brass D-ring, so you can put your lanyard on your pin pointer. It's got a bullet holster that your pin pointer will fit in. On the other side, it's got a scabbard for your digging tool. On the front, it's got a pocket that you can put your phone in or other little odds and ends, gloves, whatever you want. In the pocket, the pouch is very deep. Carry your bottled water and all your finds, plenty of room in here. So this is how I make a finder's bag. So stay tuned and thank you for watching. This metal detecting finder bag takes several pieces. Here's a piece for the front pocket that's used to hold a phone or small finds. You got two gussets. It takes a piece for the knife digging tool, a piece for the bullet strap to hold the pin point finder, the front piece, and the back piece. The next step would be to skive these edges down so they can be sewn. Let's get to that. So on the front piece, I've got around these corners. So when I put the gusset on, and then I'll have to skive a 1/4 inch on each edge for my seam. And then I'm going to take a 3/4 inch skive at the top to roll this top. Then on the bottom, this is going to be a fold over, and I've got to cut a notch to allow for my seam. So this, I'm going to trim this off before I skive it on both sides. Always double check your work. I drew it on the wrong side. Luckily I didn't make any boo-boos. This will all be hidden by the seam. And got my radius of my corners drawn out. So my next step is to cut these with a pair of shears, and then I'll go skive it. So I'm going to be skiving the pieces that need a 3/4 skive on them. I've got my skiver set to 3/4 inches. This is the front pocket. Makes a very nice skive. This is one of the gussets. It gets a 3/4. Another gusset gets a 3/4. And my front piece gets a 3/4. So the next step is to set the machine to a 1/4 inch and I'll skive those. Actually, it's not a 1/4 inch. I'm taking a 1/2 inch skive. So since this has got the 3/4 to roll over, I need a 1/2 inch to allow for a seam. This is a gusset. I need to take a 1/2 inch on both sides here. Now when I do the gussets, I want to roll one edge so it'll be pretty when it's sewn. And what I do is I mark these down 3/4 of an inch. And then I take some double-sided tape and put it on the edge here, and it's just to hold it until I can sew it. Pull the backing off. Mark my 3/4 inch line. And I just fold it over to that 3/4 inch end line. Now I'll take the other gusset and I'll marry them right here, so they'll be like this, and I'll sew the two together. So let me get this marked out. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I got my double-sided tape on an edge of the gusset, and it'll line up on this piece of the gusset, and then I'll sew it. So, gotta remove the backing off of it. Okay. So now next is I need to sew the two together. Okay. I guess I didn't push record when I sewed this up, but anyway, we've got one seam here, very strong. It's not going to pull apart, so we're good. So the next step is to make sure our gusset is going to be the right size. So we've got to test that thing. So we're going to take our front and we're going to mark on the front. We're going to draw a center line on this. The way I do that, this is a ruler that has a 0 marked in it for centering items. It's going to be about 4 3/4. 4 3/4. 4 3/4, about 4 3/4. That's going to be my center line. So then what I want to do get some of my clippies. I want to match that seam up, this edge here, to my center. And I want to mark this one of where I'm going to cut it off. And we'll repeat for this side. this side. Make that A. Make this side B. This side will be A. And this side will be B. So the next step is I want to cut both of these sides to get them to length, and then I'll skive that so I can roll these edge, and then they'll be ready to put together. So I'll be back. So I just got the edges or the ends of the gussets and marked a 3/4 inch line and marked a 3/4 inch line on the front. So now what we got to do is put some tape on this so we can fold these edges over so we'll have a clean edge on the bag. Remember, now I had to move my A mark because it's going to be folded over, so I moved it back over here so I know which side goes with what side of the gusset. I'm leaving a little bit of space between the edge because I don't want in the hot weather for this sticky tape to kind of come off, well not come off, but kind of melt and get the bag all yucky and gunky. Let's see if I can get it without using my scalpel. Okay. I'm just going to fold this over. And this will give a nice, very nice finished edge to the bag. So we gotta do that. To each end of the gusset. So now we've got to sew these rolled edges down. And I'll take you over to the sewing machine and we'll get the sewing. I'm going to take a back stitch. Okay, the next thing is cut the rest of these strings off and then burn the edges so they don't fray out. I'll be back. So the next step is, well, I forgot to show you the sewing of the front pocket. Now I've got to burnish these edges so they'll be nice and pretty. And it's just a piece of canvas. Okay, so that's done. Now the next step, before I put the gusset on the front, a few things we're going to have to do. We're going to have to place this front pocket on and sew it. And then we're going to have to put on the gusset the bullet holster for the pinpointer and I call it the holster or sheath for the digging tool here. Because if we mount this gusset on the front, it will be very difficult to put those in afterwards. So we'll kind of go step by step. Let me get this thing marked out, and we'll be back and continue. So this pocket, I've cut it kind of on an angle from the bottom to the top, so when it's sewn on, it'll form the pocket. So now we've got to stick it to the front of the bag, and again we're going to use double-sided sticky tape. Now this process is a little bit tricky because of the angles that I have to pouch to get it straight. I put little marks on the front pocket so I know where to position it. Got the center lines and the edges here. So what I use is a straight edge. Or a T-square, not T-square, but a square. That gives me my first one there. Then I kind of lift it up, get to the bottom. Okay, that's square. So now I've got it stuck down and it's ready to sew. You see, it does form a little pocket. So we'll take it over to the sewing machine and permanently affix this. Okay, so ready to stitch this up. Okay, there you have it. Trim these off, go burn the ends, move on to the next step. The next step is to build a strap to hold this solid brass D-ring, so the pin pointer cord has a D-ring to attach to, so you don't lose the pin pointer. So I cut a piece of leather and then used a punch on both ends to round it off. Next thing is put it in here, and we'll sticky tape that together, burnish the edges, and then sew that on to our gussets. Now before I can stitch this to the gusset, I've got to kind of clean these edges up. So I'm going to go out to my garage, take my Dremel, and kind of smooth these edges up, and then we'll burnish it, and we'll be ready to do some sewing. I'll be right back. Okay, I got the edges all sanded down. Now I'm going to burnish them. Next step will be to attach this. Let me get it kind of measured out and in place, and I'll put double-sided sticky tape on this and attach it to this and take it to the sewing machine. I'll be back. Okay, so what I've done is I've burnished the edges and put double sticky tape on this pin pointer bullet holder. I've got everything pre-marked on this gusset, and so I'm going to sticky tape one side down and go sew it, and then I'll put the other side down. Okay, I'll go sew this and I'll be right back. Okay, so we got one side sewn on. Now we gotta do the other side. So let's get it stuck down. Okay, got that all squared up. I'll take this over to the machine and stitch this one. Be back. Okay, back. Got this all stitched up. Now the moment of truth. I 3D printed a pattern that would fit a pinpointer, and let's see if this will fit this bullet holster. Like a glove. So there we have it. Now ready to go onto the other side and build a sheath for the digging tool. Let me get set up. Okay, so my next step is I've cut the scabbard cut out for the digging tool. And now what I've got to do is put a spacer in between this and the gusset, so when you put the digging tool in, it does not cut the threads that hold this on. So the stitching will go in inside here, and you'll have a piece of leather to keep the edges from digging into the stitches. So I'm going to put double-sided sticky tape around here and take a 1/4 inch strip of leather that I cut and mount that on here. I'm not going to bore you with the details to watch me put that on, but I'll tell you when I'm finished with it. Okay, so I've got the welt installed. I burnished the edges and got the double-sided sticky tape. But here's one edge I forgot to burnish, so let's get that one done. Okay. And I've already got I've mocked this up so we can stick this down and do the sewing. Okay, so I've got the sticky tape pulled off. I had a little issue. I think I better turn this around so you can see. Looks about right. Okay. So now I'll take and I'll go sew this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the scabbard sewn on. Next step is to put the gusset on the front and attach it to the back and sew that up. We're getting close. Thanks for sticking with me. Okay, if y'all remember when we put this gusset on to test it, we had an A and a B side, and here's my A side, and this is my A side here. So this is how it's going to mount up. And we'll give it a test fit here. what I like to do to make sure that these stay in the same position is I take a staple gun, and then I'll staple this on, and the holes for that staple gun will be hidden by the seam, and that way I'm assured that these will not move and I'll have an uneven stitch. So let me get the staple gun and I'll be right back. Okay, so I put a staple right here, and I'm going to put another one right here in this corner. Okay, the next step is to go to the sewing machine and stitch this piece up. Okay, so I'm going to take about a 3/16 inch stitch here. I'm getting ready to do my back stitch. Okay, so we got that sewn together. Next step is to work on the back and get it ready to be stitched. I'll be back in a few. Okay, so off camera, I folded over, I double-sided taped the flap over. I had my mark here of where I needed to sew it. So that's been stuck down, and now I'm going to sew this. So my front piece is now ready to have the gusset with the front pocket sewn onto this. I'll be back. Okay, so off camera, I attached the gusset front pocket to the back, and I'm getting ready to sew it. Hopefully it comes out where you can see it. Very bulky. Like the edges are the strings, and this part will be over with. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, now the next part is to turn this bag inside out. Sometimes they go very easy, sometimes they are a pain. Depends on the type of leather. Let's see what this one does. Might get your bag of popcorn. Could take a while. And there you have it. There's a finder's bag that's been completed. Got the front pocket. Phone will fit in. Other items. Pinpoint bullet holster with a solid brass ring to tie it on so you won't lose it, and a 3-inch belt where a 3-inch belt can go through to put it on your waist. Large enough you can carry some water bottles and all the finds that you have out there. Appreciate you guys watching. And this bag takes about 5 hours to build, but it's a great American-made product, and this bag should last a lifetime. It's leather, beautiful bag. Thanks for watching.